Martin and I are going to chat a little more about advising students in the financial planning space. Martin talking a little more from the student angle. I'd like to share some thoughts on partnering programs with companies. And so, Martin, I'd love to get your perspectives on if you've got students and you're helping identify programs and firms that may be in alignment. What are some? How do you give that advice to students? How do you get them down that path?
Yeah, there's two real filter points. The first is at the program level, and that is deciding who your strategic partners are going to be. Who are the firms that you're going to get on campus on a continuing and regular basis? And our students are in high demand. They have education and training that really makes them competitive in this marketplace. And we have a duty to those students to pull the best firms in that are going to fully utilize those skills as well as compensate them for that expertise. So at that level, we really look at understanding the firm's support. Do these firms have training processes, and do they support their young advisors as they're moving through? Many firms do have this. Some, it's more throw you to the wolves and let you see what sorts out. We want to find those firms that have those training processes and that support for the advisor to get going. Underneath that, we want to understand their support for relevant designations and licenses, and specifically the CFP exam. It's really important that students are able to have the time and support necessary to study for and pass these exams. And of course, the firms in many cases need students to have these, especially licenses, if they're going to be able to practice. So what is the path that flows through for that? Next, we want to understand what are the students' success rates. And now we need to also understand different students have different personalities, and those personalities may take them on paths where they control their destiny a little bit more. But underneath that, we really do want to understand what's the expected success rate for students. Are we sending them to places where they're going to have the opportunity to learn and grow and evolve as they enter their profession and their jobs? Or is it they've got 3 months to produce and then they're gonna be out? We really want to make sure we understand that. And last is this growing career path. Is there a way? Do they illustrate how a new graduate is going to go from year one as sort of an entry-level employee, potentially all the way up to a partner at year 15, year 20, year 30, whatever it is that exists. It's really important that those expectations are set. What we find in some firms, if this isn't set, you hear a lot of conversation about potential, but when it comes time to reality, when it comes time to actually move students up and through and give them ownership, that it gets a little soft, it gets a little wiggly. And so the more defined a career path that we can find, that we can illustrate to our students, I think the better landing spot that we're going to get them to. The second component of this is now that we've tried to filter through and find those firms that are good landing spots for our students, we want to then help the students filter through as to which firm makes sense to them personally. And students have an incredibly broad array of personality characteristics. They have a broad array of motivations and drive. Some students thrive with the opportunity to go out and control their own destiny, and some don't have the confidence yet to do that. And we filter through an understanding, what's the approach? Is it going to be a team approach, or is it going to be an individual approach? My wife was one that when she graduated, she needed to go more of a team approach. She didn't feel comfortable as an entrepreneur yet. She felt like she was best suited learning the business as a support person. And now she's grown in more of an individual approach over time, but that was not her personality at that distinct point in time. On the reverse side, I have a student that graduated last year that had offers, pretty high salary offers to go and be a part of a team, but his personality graded against that. He wanted the opportunity to go control his own destiny and have the opportunity to build his own practice. So important to understand the student's personality that way. The second is understanding the expectations. At what time and at what point are our students going to have these production expectations? For some students, they're drawn to that. Others, they need time before they're going to get to that. Many firms that do have these expectations will line out what they are over time. More and more will, even if there's production expectations, will have salaries early on, maybe year 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes you have to pay those salaries back through production. But what are their expectations going to be, and how does that fit with the student's personality as well as their natural market? Sometimes you have students with great personalities, but if they have no natural market, it can be hard for client acquisition expectations. I go a step further. We have some firms, especially on the higher end, where they will never have client acquisition expectations. There are dedicated parts of the firm that are BDO, business development officers, will do it, but understand that. And lastly, I've touched on this a little bit, but is there entrepreneurial potential or even ownership? And you see ownership potential oftentimes, no matter the type of approach. My wife's firm, once again, you can buy in starting in year 3 and have the opportunity to own your firm. Many RIAs, you have a lot of planners that are looking to transition their book of business. Oftentimes, it's not the highest starting salary, but you know an advisor is going to be retiring in 5 to 10 years, and the student that's placed there has the opportunity to grow into that really good landing spot with an existing client base and take ownership of that firm over time. So as we filter through, once again, we try to understand as a program, what are the best opportunities for our firm, or for our students? And then within that array of firms, how do our students align best with those different firm strengths and characteristics?
Martin, thank you so much for that perspective. And I'll just tack on a little bit. When we look at who to partner with as a school, as a department, as financial planning at the University of Illinois, we look at these things, right? We say, does your firm support the CFP mark? How do our students perform there? Is it a good fit for what we're teaching? Is it a good fit retention wise? Are we sending students there and 5 years down the road, we've got a dozen, or 5 years down the road, no one's worked out? So, part of it, not only from a student end, but from, director end of things, you also think about who to partner with and who to befriend and who to bring into the circle with these same types of identifiers. But Martin, I can't thank you enough for your time and really appreciate all you've had to say.